Hey everybody, it's Gina here from Gina Makes It. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I am working in my new winter journal and I am starting a new little series that is called Rediscovering Your Stash, where I am going to be utilizing all of the wonderful goodies that I have in my stash that I have not used and that I should be using instead of buying new things. So I redesigned my winter journal right here from the last time you had seen it. I talk all about it in a new blog post on my website at ginamakeitit.com if you're interested. The inside pages were not working for me, the signatures, and so I completely ripped them all out and I reformulated them and I re-sewed them and glued them in, and I actually replaced the inside back cover, and a whole lot of stuff went on that I talk about in that blog post, and I am so happy that I did it and I just feel so incredibly inspired by it. So it was really such a good move. So if you're interested in finding out more about that, head on over there and read about it. So today what I am doing is I am utilizing my stash of beautiful papers and ephemera. They're both printed from shops that I bought on Etsy, my own Etsy digitals, my own collections, as well as papers and ephemera that I have bought over the years and I have not used. I think we all kind of fall into that trap where we don't use what we buy. I shouldn't say all of us. I'm sure there's some people out there who use everything that they buy. I am not one of them, but I will be this year. So I think I mentioned before in my last video that I have been, or maybe it was 2 videos ago, that I have been kind of underwhelmed by Etsy. I don't need to go into it again. So I'm feeling so rejuvenated by rediscovering all of the beautiful papers and ephemera in my own stash. And so what I've done here is just pulled out some papers that kind of spoke to me for this layout. And in this layout, I am just kind of documenting the beginning of January, and I cut out all of these little, I'm going to call it clip art, from a Maggie Holmes paper that I think is from her Heritage collection. And I believe I got this at Joann Fabrics a while ago. And I know that American Crafts, I don't know if you know this, but they do reprint a lot of their designer papers on a thinner cardstock, and then they sell it just under American Crafts. They don't sell it under that designer's name, and then you can buy it from the open stock at Joann's. I've seen a lot of different designer papers resold that way. So it's not going to be as thick as the original cardstock, the double-sided cardstock. It's going to be a little bit thinner, but it's the same images. So if you see something that you like that you think is out of, I'm going to say, print, you could always check that open stock at Joann's under American Crafts, because I know that they do that. So I am just cutting out all these little icons and I am adding them around my page, and oh my gosh, I have to say that I absolutely love it. So originally when I looked at this paper, I thought, oh, okay, how am I going to use this as a background paper? I had tunnel vision. I thought, oh, it just can be used as a paper, and I didn't really think about cutting out the actual little images and using them that way. I tend to have tunnel vision, like I just said. I am very guilty of that all of the time. So I am trying to really think outside of what I normally do to just add fun and a new sort of level of creativity to my journal. So I did the same thing with those tickets on the left-hand side, and I did change this inside cover, and this is going to be my book log for January and February. I probably will make a new journal for March, so this is probably just going to be for January and February, and maybe a little bit of March. I don't know. We'll see. In March, I tend to go very floral. I don't know what it is, but I tend to have like a huge shift into this like very romantic sort of floral aesthetic. So I don't know. We'll see if we'll do that again this year, but I kind of have a feeling I will. So I am just arranging all of these little icons around this piece of journaling that I did. This is just on a piece of stationery that, again, I had in my stash, and I glued it down on a piece of patterned scrapbook paper that I glued on top of a piece of drawing paper. So in that blog post that I was talking about earlier, I go into detail about what wasn't working for me in the old setup in this winter journal, and primarily, I shouldn't say primarily, one part of it was just the page layout and having to be married to these patterned scrapbook pages because they were sewn in. If you've been with me for a while, you'll know that I've always say like, oh, I like to create a neutral journal so I don't feel kind of backed into a corner. And then somehow I got away from that and I started adding pattern papers to my signatures, and it just doesn't work for me. So I end up gluing the pattern paper on top of the neutral paper, whatever it is that is on there, if I want to do that. And I did that here, and it worked so wonderfully. All of these colors are aligned and they all go together, and then I just tied a bow and I added it to the middle of that stationery that had my journaling on it. So right now I'm just pulling up these 2025 numbers that I glued down last week, and I'm replacing it with the word books. And I just thought it was so apropos because the little girl in the image is reading, and then that little quote that I stapled to the upper left hand corner that came from a graphic 45 piece of paper is a C.S. Lewis quote. So I just thought that that would be the perfect place for me to document books that I am reading in January and February. So that's what I'm going to do. I didn't like the way that that page was just kind of like, bam, here I am. So I wanted to add something in front of it, and I decided to add a paper doily. I just folded it along the edge of that first page, and then I have a bunch of paintings by Carl Wilhelm Halso. I am probably not pronouncing that correctly. He is, or was, I should say, a Danish painter from the late 19th century to the early 20th century, and he focused on painting interiors. And his wife is always like featured in all of the paintings, and I love them. His wife is always either doing needlework, or she's reading, or she's looking out a window. And just the way that the interiors are decorated and set up, they speak so strongly to me. And I get all of these off of the public domain because they are part of the public domain. And I printed this one out, and to me, it was just like the perfect January scene. I just love it so much. So I did trim it down so it would fit onto that January journaling card, I'm going to call it. That is from a Graphic 45 collection. And I did refold the doily so it would lay a little bit more wide than it was laying, just so everything would fit. So I'm just creating layers here. Basically, I'm just layering the journaling card with the paper doily and the piece of artwork. And so I wanted to add this red quote at the bottom of the picture from this, again, Graphic 45 little, I think this is like an 8x8 paper pad, and it's just a little winter saying, and it's so sweet. And for some reason, I've really been gravitating towards Graphic 45 papers. I've always loved these calendar collections that they have. They always speak to me. So it's no wonder that I've been adding them to all of the stuff I've been doing lately. And I felt like I needed a little bit of texture on that right side. So I have a whole bunch of dried flowers in a little case on my bureau. And so I pulled out this piece of dried baby's breath, and I wanted to tie a little piece of twine around the stem. I didn't know which color, but I decided to do this brown color, and then I just glue the bow right on top of that baby's breath, and I glue the baby's breath down very carefully. The final piece to this layout is I just add a picture of a woman sewing on the inside of the doily, and I add a little bit of washi tape around it, and that's going to wrap up this layout. If you want to find out more about what I'm up to in between videos, I am regularly posting at ginamakesit.com about all sorts of things going on around here and all sorts of things that I'm up to, and you can also follow me on Instagram. As always, thank you so much for watching and supporting my channel. I will see you next time.